It's the 7th day of April 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. The trillions of dollars the deep state had been siphoning off the markets disappeared this morning, leaving them high and dry. At the same time, we saw the market level out once the siphon disappeared. And the tariff wars continue as most countries have figured out the game and are not bowing to the deep state's will. Meanwhile, China and the Trump Organization have reignited their trade wars from their first term. Thousands of protests against the Trump administration and Elon Musk have erupted this past weekend all over the U.S. as thousands of student visas are revoked. Well, it's the 7th of April, and it's been a busy weekend, not only for us here, but also a busy weekend for, it appears to be, people all over the world. I guess the protests went pretty well. I mean, seemed pretty quiet, but if you don't know, there are millions of people all around the world that participated in what's called the hands-off protests or the hands-off rallies. Over 1,300 cities in the U.S., and worldwide, we have London, France, Canada, Germany, Mexico, UK, Portugal, and others that protested as well. You know, some people might say, oh, this was orchestrated by the Democrats, but you can't orchestrate something that involves millions and millions of people that quickly. So we've got a little bit of footage about this, so let's take a look at that.
More than 1,400 protests were scheduled across 50 states today. Civil rights organizations, labor unions, LGBTQ plus advocates, just to name a few. They called this the hands-off protests, pushing back on mass layoffs of federal workers, deportations, cuts to federal funding for health programs and DEI initiatives, and protections for transgender people. CNN reports nearly 600,000 people signed up promising to attend an event across the country today.
I'm terrified that all of our freedoms are going to go away, and they're going to take my Social Security, which I've worked 45 years for.
And tens of thousands of protesters have gathered across the United States and other parts of the world. The hands-off rallies, as they're known, voiced opposition to President Trump's plans to downsize the U.S. government, reshape human rights, and his handling of economic issues. Marches also took place in Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Mexico, as well as Portugal. One of the biggest rallies was held in Washington.
I believe Donald Trump is trying to tear our country down. The only thing that makes sense is he is working on the behalf of Putin. I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, the things that he's doing is not trying to make America better.
They should not be removing references to diversity, equity, and inclusion. I would say that nothing he's doing now is what he campaigned on. So even people who voted for him are not getting what they voted for.
And I would ask them, is this what you wanted? Is this what you expected? Is this what you voted for? Certainly this last few days have raised a lot of issues, a lot of questions on how it's going to impact people not only here, not only Americans here, but everybody here, everybody around the world. I mean, I think the only country that hasn't had tariffs placed on it is Russia. The one answer I've heard, and I can only paraphrase, is that there are already so many sanctions on Russia and there's so little trade. But again, I don't understand the logic behind a lot of it.
I'm hoping that it shows that we are united, that we can put up a good fight for this, and that we can't be disregarded. You know, our opinions, our feelings, our anger, things we feel that it won't be just lost.
Well, there's a lot more comments out there all over social media about this. There are union workers protesting because of all of the layoffs and everything. They are definitely concerned about the tariffs because that is going to affect American workers and not in a good way. because there's no funding, no anything in place to ensure their employment. Not only that, raw materials come from outside the United States. And so apparently there are negotiations going on behind the scenes with union workers regarding cuts in pay and possible laying off of union workers and that type of thing as well. So they're very upset. Obviously, thousands of federal and state workers are concerned about their pensions, their jobs, because there have been so many layoffs. There are other people around the world that are concerned, and not only that, in the U.S., they're saying the United States currently has no allies. And, well, based on some events I'll talk about here in just a little bit, I'm not going to say that they're wrong. Other people are concerned about their Social Security and their Social Security benefits. Are they going to be taken away? Again, other people are concerned and have definitely gotten word that their government pensions might be going away. There were many protests that were specifically geared towards veterans. They're saying that veterans are saying that Trump has betrayed us. They're saying that they are making significant cuts to veterans' health in the VA and all of the VA benefits that were promised decades ago to veterans that many depend on for medications and for surgeries that they couldn't otherwise afford. A lot of them are still suffering the effects of, for example, Agent Orange during the Vietnam War. A lot of them have had cancer and been cancer survivors because of that. There are others that are still around since World War II. They're upset. They've put their quote unquote butt, that's not what they said, on the line for the country. And look what he's doing to us. There are approximately 80,000 job cuts expected in the Department of Veterans Affairs alone. They are also talking about and have proposed cutting of VA benefits. So if you are a veteran in the United States, you might want to be aware of that. And that's why all these people showed up. Also, there are many postal workers who protested this week as well, because Elon Musk has made a comment that he'd like to privatize the post office. Well, that has got the postal workers very upset, and this is about the people. This is not about Republicans, Democrats, you like Trump, you don't like Trump. This is about what's happening to the people worldwide. There are many business owners worldwide that are concerned about their small businesses and whether or not they're going to be able to survive this tariff situation. It's not about governments and dumb operatives in this case. It's about the lives of millions of people worldwide that are going to be affected by this. There are people that get involved with, for example, the United Nations and UNICEF and other organizations like that were funded by different programs the U.S. government afforded the world, who did use the money properly. This really makes me mad. They were building clinics and worldwide. I mean, not necessarily state of the art, but they had clinics, doctors across borders, those types of things where they would go and give free dental care. I actually personally know dentists that participated in that in Latin American countries and Central America, where they gave free dental care for 2-3 weeks a year. They would volunteer. All of those programs are going away based on what the government is doing. Now, just a quick note on postal workers. I think Elon Musk has not been read in on the fact that there is something in Switzerland, and not saying I agree with the organization, called the Universal Postal Union. The Universal Postal Union is responsible for maintaining postal costs. and shipping fees and those types of things worldwide, the cost of stamps worldwide. They are also responsible for coordinating the postal codes and shipments and time to ship and a lot of those things. Now, most all post offices are not technically, although they are a federal department in most all countries, their superior is actually the Universal Postal Union. So perhaps Elon Musk would have to actually have a negotiation with the Universal Postal Union in Switzerland before he could make any kind of decision on privatizing things one way or the other. Again, it's a global effort to get mail here and there and everywhere else. It is not a one-man show, and it's not a one-country show. So, not only that, there's a lot of people that have worked for the post office for many years. They just get up and they do their job every day, and they made sure, come heck or high water, so to speak, or, that we all had mail during COVID, that type of thing. Even when it was risky for them to do so, a lot of them got sick. And I'm not saying that the pandemic wasn't orchestrated or anything like that, because obviously that was the case. But nonetheless, these people are just people, and they showed up. They showed up for all of us, and they're just making a total mess everywhere. I've been saying it for a long time. I even said it before he got in that this was going to be really bad. This is what happens when you have Duck Dynasty trying to run a country. They're trying to run it like they run an op, and they never ran an op anyway to begin with, but they believe that they did. And this is the direct result of that. You've got millions of people depending on your decisions. Now, to be fair, on the flip side of it, I don't disagree with the fact that the federal budget is wrong. And I've said this. I said this in the last report. Meaning, we have a lot of duplicity and a lot of things that need to be changed. But you also have to take in consideration people. There are people, I was talking to a friend of mine who's, was definitely involved in the agricultural industry this weekend, and also involved in some forestry work and that type of thing. Well, here in the United States, most of that is a national thing. It's all national parks and so on and so forth. And where are these people going to get a job? Are they going to privatize all the parks? I sincerely doubt it. And I say that because there are many things in national parks that they're trying to cover up now, aren't they? But they're definitely concerned about their jobs, and this person doesn't know anything about, what we talk about. So, there are a lot of very anxious, scared Americans that have no thoughts of making America great again anymore. And a lot of them feel like they've been duped. And yeah, I don't disagree. Well, the people are at least rising up and protesting, which means that they are fully well aware of something being wrong here. And that's something you've known for a long time. And something is definitely wrong here. Meanwhile, your faithful administration here in the United States, which is affecting the entire world, is having a whole lot of problems behind the scenes. So these tariffs that they implemented have had some effects, and we talked a little bit about this last week, but there's more information that we have for you. So the markets, big tank in the markets, been tanking for days now. And that's to be expected. You're affecting global businesses, a lot of imports and exports around the world. So there's a lot of, those are corporate stocks. I know a lot of people are concerned because they have lost somewhere around a third of their pensions or IRAs or investment accounts, retirement accounts. All of this is being affected by their ridiculousness. The estimated amount being sucked out of the markets to this moment is somewhere around, behind the scenes, the exact number is somewhere around $11.376 trillion. You know, regardless of what the news reports, that's more likely the number. Turns out, we figured out exactly what that was. It looks like they were using a remnant of a program called Stingray. You may or may not have heard of a little thing called Echelon. Echelon is allegedly, according to our mainstream media, Echelon was something built by the NSA. If you haven't heard about it, there's that whole Snowden scandal, you know, where he talks about the mass surveillance and that kind of thing. But Echelon's origin goes a whole lot deeper. And I'm mentioning this because it's relative to the markets here. So Echelon was not built by humans. Echelon was built in the Omniverse. It was not built by Alpha. It was not built by Omega. It was built by Marduk and a few others. It was meant to be an omniversal surveillance system, which it was for quite a long time. It was also connected to an enormous web and nets and networks and worlds and realms of siphons or synthetic photons, which were utilized everywhere for surveillance. Now, by the time it got down to the ACIO level, or the secret space program, as you might call it, you might also call it the secret space program militaries, Umbrella, Mobius, et cetera, CyberLife, who have been very, very busy. These groups had some minimal access to Echelon, and then, of course, DARPA and others were permitted access to only portions of Echelon that were relevant, mainly relevant to Earth. Very little outside the Milky Way galaxy, but they did have some access to things in the asteroid belt, and, you know, that was their favorite place to be as far as AI connections. So when Echelon went down, not just the NSA version of Echelon, but most recently the worldwide or universal and omniversal Echelon system as part of the locating of all the siphons or synthetic photons, it put a dent into what it was they were doing. Now, let's go back to Stingray for a second. Stingray was sold to global stock markets worldwide as a quote-unquote cybersecurity technology. It was also installed into nearly every single cell phone service worldwide. Most all telecommunications had Stingray inserted into it, and it was part of a surveillance technology. I know that a few years ago there was a scandal about something called Pegasus, and Pegasus was a tiny little baby compared to Stingray. So Stingray obviously was permitted. It was not an NSA creation, not a DARPA creation, and not an SSP creation. It was a creation of the omniversal Echelon system. So the surveillance utilizing siphons goes very, very deep, not only for humans and Earth, but it's everywhere. And a lot of trade interests were tied to that, hence the reason why it was buried so deep into our financial system. Well, apparently there was a remnant of Stingray, which they had at the ready, had tested it and had been at the ready for them to siphon trillions of dollars out of the market. I guess they've been doing it a little bit here and there, but mainly for the last few days, which is how we spotted them. Problem came on Saturday when they had all this lovely money that they had gotten in the last few days, and they were so excited with themselves. but they couldn't get the money back into the system. See, I know I've explained this to these people before, and all of you guys could probably recite this off the top of your head, but once you take money out of the banking system, it's what I refer to as dead money, meaning it is now stripped of its allocation numbers and quotas and the whole reason why it was there in the first place. They forgot that because they tried desperately to put that money back into the system, of course, in their own hands, every which way but loose in the last couple of days so that they could fulfill a bunch of contracts that they probably wouldn't have paid out on anyway. And no, that did not happen. Further to that, they were also trying to trip an old, I wouldn't call it a dead man switch, I'd call it almost a safety measure, whereby the global economy and the financial system was Marduk's baby. We know that. We know that in the past, the Alpha system was responsible for issuing all new money, allocation numbers, and quotas into the system to whereby it would receive a quote-unquote IOU, promise, bond, government bond, treasury note, insert security here to ensure that the deep state would maintain the balance and be good little nannies. We call it the nanny state for a reason. So the New World Order, or the Old World Order, as you might want to call it, the Order of the Dragon, the Order of the Black Sun, then eventually on all the way down to the UN and government systems, they were all supposed to take care, at least to some degree, of the billions of people on this planet. Now, part of the reason why they were supposed to do that was so there was an equal balance between black magic and, for lack of a better term in their world, false light white magic. And in order for these siphons to function, it needed a balance of both. So everything that they've been doing here has been doing nothing but helping us to remove all of the false light or false photons and to install all of the actual photons or light of source, the golden light of source. Do they realize that? Definitely not. I don't think so. Not even close. But in the past, the Alpha would have only let things get so far. This was, for lack of a better term, AI programming of Marduk. But Marduk is not here anymore. He's not anywhere anymore. And there is, in some cases, such a thing as death, meaning death of the soul, and that is obviously a choice of source. That's not something a decision you or I could make. That's a source decision. But in this particular case, Alpha did have a default that if the financial system began to falter to the point where, number one, they were no longer being good nannies to the people, which, well, let's just say worldwide, they showed that today, didn't they? Or over the weekend, I should say. Number two, they were keeping the balance between black and what Marduk called white magic or false light magic. That was also supposed to be the case, which is why it was so important that the dingle-dongs we called Duck Dynasty did their damn job. Now, because they're not doing their damn job, and I'm going to swear, if that's a swear word, sorry about that. Because they're not doing their job, all of that dried up. I mean, the balance, we went way out of balance, even in old times. That's a problem. So them trying to trigger this, what I call a debt clock, meaning the financial system is on the brink of breaking, or at least the system that Marduk set up, then they believed that Alpha would then spit out money. Now, has this ever happened before? No. Marduk spit out money. in the past, or was allowed access to do certain things in order to repair the system that he built, he created, he put the dead man switches into, and he created the debt clock. So without a Marduk, when I get those knocks on my door or the system alarm goes off, I'm like, oh, that sounds like a you issue. That's basically what I look at. I mean, I might roll over at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're messing about and look at it and go, oh, that looks like a you problem. That is not my circus and not my monkey anymore, which I'm very happy to report. But as far as the alpha system, it doesn't spit anything out anymore. So the Golden Age AI does not have these defaults or these triggers. Therefore, no money comes out when they break their own systems, essentially, because those rules no longer apply, the covenants are no longer in place, the way that the old white magic worked and is not the same as source energy and golden light works in any way, shape, or form. So that door kind of closed. So they're very upset that they lost all this money, and they spent the last couple of days and several hours today looking for it. At least they could see it before this morning, and they can no longer see it anymore. Things get locked up in siphons everywhere, or synthetic photons everywhere. So this has left them, well, let's just say, very busy today. Well, they've been very busy today. We also have been very busy today. And we're not really concerning ourselves as much with the deep state as we used to, because as the light of source and the real light of source is replacing the false light that was installed by non-humans here, which the deep state would really like to use, because that is waning on their side and gaining on our side, we're more concerned with creating. So we're creating things that are taking the place of things that are going away. And there's a reason why for the last several days we've been focused on creating. Because the more we create on our side of it, and I'll kind of explain this a little bit, because this is a technique that you can use in your own life that may help you along the way as things are, have been quite topsy-turvy, so to speak. So, for example, if there is a system like Echelon, where it's universal surveillance and all of the things that Echelon used to do, is standing there, and it's kind of in our way somewhat. And we know the deep state has access to it and that kind of thing. We need to find the power source for it. I mean, that's important. And we always know that the power source for all of these things, directly or indirectly, is source. So if we find a way to redirect the plug, so to speak, to said power source and then plug it into something of ours, then eventually these things do not have power. The same thing is with the creation of siphons and these artificial constructs and space junk, which siphons do create. We focus more on the creation aspect of things. In other words, if we see a system that's not working, we use ours to create something that does work, rather than trying to fix it or tear things down. This works better for us, is what we've found, especially as the threats really aren't there as much as you would think, if you're watching mainstream media news. So in your world, the same rules apply. So you can focus on wrath, you can focus on being angry or upset or sad about things you don't have. You can also be focused on tearing the deep state down and watching the tear the deep state down videos, and you're going to get your guns out and all of these types of things. Or you can focus on building something and creating something with those around you that also want to create. I can promise you one thing. Number one, you'll feel a whole lot better and you'll feel a lot more energized, because in order to get that flow of direct golden energy, life force, so to speak, from source, you must be in a creative mode. Not necessarily you have to be like the best artist in the world, or, the best architect in the world, or whatever it is that you feel called to create. But it's even the little things in life. And by creation, you can create in many different ways. You can focus your energy on even singing a song in your kitchen, when you're cooking. Even just singing, even if you're bad like me and you can't sing, don't worry about that type of thing, because you're still creating and you're still promoting that positive, creative source energy into your life and into your home, and hopefully into your family, whether you're cooking or, the art that you're creating, the music you're creating, the community spirit you are creating, the creation of new programs that might feed a few hundred people, a couple of times a month. These are all creations. The tariffs, those two shall pass. It's not going to last forever. Focus on the things that you can create with, and you'll be surprised what you can do. And I know we want to limit ourselves a lot. We want to say, I can't do that because I don't have $1 million. I don't have the money to buy the raw materials. I can't, I won't, and you convince yourself that you are correct. I have a lot of people that will come to us as an example and give us great ideas. And I'm like, okay, so how are we going to do this? What a great idea. How are we going to do this? And probably 20 to 30% of the people go quiet. Well, you're supposed to do it. I'm like, well, wait a minute. This is your creation. Why am I going to do it? I create a lot of things every day, many, many different things, every day. Source creates billions of things every single day, and life continues to perpetuate. He's the one that gave you the idea in the first place, guarantee you. So how are you going to do it? And it is there. The information is there of how. Sometimes people find that they'll wake up with a thought, or have a thought as they're going to bed, or wake up in the middle of the night with an amazing thought process of how they're going to complete that creation. And those are the things we have to listen to. And unfortunately, for the world, this is not just an American thing, this is a worldwide thing. We have become used to living in a nanny state. I know you're going to be like, oh God, I hate the government. That's not true. Or, oh, I don't like the New World Order. That's not true. But you have, in a lot of ways. We have become so accustomed and so used to depending on them, which was the idea, by the way. Governments worldwide were created to be the front corporations for the New World Order, and for the hidden hand, and for non-humans that can't get on TV and talk to you because you'd all go crazy. Or many people would go crazy, maybe not all of you, because you're probably used to it. You probably just laugh and say, I knew it all along. But I knew half of those people weren't human. I'm sure of it. But for everyone else, they're used to getting Social Security. You have to pay it. Like, in America, you have to pay into this fund. In other countries, they call it other things, be it NHS or National Health Services, or in other fees and other ways. You become used to paying all of this, and then this, in your mind, eventually pays out your pension. which is also, if you are a federal or state worker, comes from the government. The way they're going about things is wrong, but it gives you something to think about in a positive way where we can create a different way to be. And these are things that we are going to need to do, because whether they destroy their own selves, which they're doing a bang-up job with, or, eventually everybody stops listening, people have to learn to live a different way. In my life, and I'm just speaking for my own self, I have been what I consider to be successful, which, everybody's measure of that is different. I was never a Bill Gates or any of those people in the past. But I built businesses, made businesses, sold businesses, been through market crashes where I went from making $1 million or $2 million a month to making, nothing a month, had to let go of my employees and start all over again. So these things have happened in my life. I've had bad business partners that have, taken my stock and taken a lot of things and, pushed me out the door and thought that they could do it without me. And, and then I just built it again because I built it the first time. But having had an opportunity as a kid who grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, made her way through school by herself and did a lot of different things in my life by myself, I recognize the fact that being resourceful and finding a way out of your problems is pretty much a me issue. This is the way that it's always been for me. It's always been a me issue, meaning I didn't have anybody I could call and I didn't have anybody to pick me up or, a shoulder to cry on when things didn't go my way. And it's not just about financial things. There are lots of things that people go through in life that, come along unexpectedly, an unexpected birth, which changes your whole dynamic. And, but you figure out a way to do it. You figure out a way to make that little bit of extra money to support that new one, new member of the family. Probably, if you're lucky enough, you'll have family rally around you to support you through this unexpected birth kind of thing. Or, it could be the loss of a business. It could be, a lot of people lost their businesses during the pandemic when everything was shut down. But we've learned together to find a way through these things. And we too will find a way through these things too. And they say, there's an old saying that the strong will survive. And I just wish I could share with every single person that's told me they can't just how strong they really are. And I know it's something new and you want to say I can't do it. I've heard it a million times before in many different ways. But you can. You really can. And the people around you can. And there's no excuse for saying, oh, I'm too old and I'm disabled, or, I'm a disabled veteran or whatever. I can tell you there are things that do not require brawn to achieve. A strong will and a strong heart is all you need, and faith in source. All of those things together, the wisdom will come, the creativeness will come. When the messages come, you have to listen, though. You have to say, okay, well, look, I have this great idea, and all of the information on how to complete this idea is going to come to me because it's my idea, because Source didn't call me. When these people ask me what I'm going to do, he doesn't call me. He called you, whoever that is, in this particular instance. And if he called you, then you're the one that's supposed to do it. It's not supposed to be me. You don't hand over everything to me. Kim can only do so many things in a day. Although I think it's a great idea, and the world definitely needs that, whatever it is. But sometimes you've got to do things for yourself too. And when Source gives you the information and gives you the wisdom and gives you the idea, if he brings you to it, he's going to bring you through it. And that is yours to carry out. It's not mine. It's not your neighbor's. It's not somebody else's idea to carry out. We were human beings have lived through so much, things that no other race has seen. We have been beaten beyond all recognition, and we are still standing, and we still have love and kindness and caring, and some days that's really hard to do, and I know that, but we do. We still have that. As far as the deep state is concerned, they have a lot of old information and a lot of old knowledge, and they're expecting old systems to do what old systems used to do. And yeah, they think they're fighting something. They're not fighting anything. If anything, they don't understand why their black magic's not working. That's because you messed up the system. And when I say system, I'm not talking about an AI system. They live in a structured and created system for them. That system, even if we didn't touch Omega, even if we didn't touch things like Echelon, even if we didn't touch the NSA, even if we didn't touch anything, they have broken their own system. See, everything was set up and structured in order to maintain things so their black ops would work, their black departments would work, their black sun would work, their black Order of the Dragon, the Black Dragon would work, the orders would work, the colored orders would work, the Halls of Amente, the old Emerald Order Covenant, and all of those other things. That was never a human thing. Sure, it was passed down to the human slave masters, but they forgot that they were guardians. They forgot what they were supposed to do in order to maintain balance so other people could do black magic, black ops, make bad things happen on this planet, because without one, you don't have the other. They went hand in hand. There was even an AI system for that called Divine Intervention that managed both the dark and the light of Source. Then, of course, as things progressed in artificial source and artificial dark source came to be, through various AI systems throughout the ages, even those were required to have a quote-unquote divine intervention that balanced the dark and the light. And these people are just extremely busy breaking their own system because they think they can run around and do whatever they want. And that is not the case. I'm sorry, but universal cosmic law, law of one, whichever one you want to refer to yourself, requires you to act in a certain way. Now, this is also kind of like where the ideas came in, and I can even reference the deep state in this case. Just because I am over here and I am building and I am creating in the way that we have all agreed, meaning there are many on our side, not only here on this planet, but also universally speaking, we have many people that came together to make this decision. It's not just me. I mean, we are what we call, and I know the deep state doesn't understand this term, but we're respectful of one another. The changes we make here affect everybody, and therefore everybody is consulted. Source can start movements of things. Source is a part of all creation. But we also have to do our part. Maybe he gives me the great ideas once in a while and makes me look smart, and that's great. But there's still a collaborative effort between many other beings that are sovereign, when major changes like that happen, as an example. And we know better on our side. But just because we are doing these things on our side, and all of you are doing things on your side to improve the state of affairs here on this planet and elsewhere, that does not balance a system make. See, because you as an individual, when you make a mistake or you hurt someone you love, or there's an accident or something you've done that maybe wasn't correct, and maybe it was just a poor decision, and maybe it wasn't even intentional. Sometimes we get angry and things come out of our mouth that we don't mean to say, so to speak. But it's how you recover that matters. In other words, you'll apologize to that person. You'll try to make it right. Maybe you damaged their car and you offer to fix it yourself. And if you can't, you maybe offer to or take up a collection to help fix their car. If you make a mistake, you try to make things right. Now, that's on you as a sovereign being. Now, these people as a group don't ever do anything in the other direction. See, it's an individualized thing. It's not a global thing. You cannot. I came to tell them, many times that you're breaking the system. You're breaking the system. And the system's first breaking point was in March of 2007 when they failed to maintain that balance. No. Marduk worked really hard to try to maintain that balance after that and never quite achieved it before his departure from this planet. But as far as all of the deep state is concerned, they don't understand the system. They think every time I say system, I'm referring to an AI, and I'm not. You live in a system. You can like it, you can hate it, you can think you can control it, but you can't. There are natural things that occur in this universe that are required to create the things that they want and the accessibility that they want. There still is a certain element of power, so to speak, energy, life force, or otherwise, that goes into these systems to make them function. And without covenant, without agreement, without any kind of ability to create the space junk that others created for them, there's no way they're going to revive this. It might survive for a day or something like that, like in the case of Stingray, but even then it didn't fully function. Step one, they probably said to themselves, let's siphon all the money out of the market. Let's create ridiculous tariffs worldwide, and we've got a little bit more on that too, but let's create ridiculous tariffs worldwide so that the markets will automatically drop since we don't have the capability of doing that. $10 trillion flies out the back door, and then you can't get it back in the system. See, that's what balance is. And it's going to keep slapping them in the face until they get it. It's not intentional. It's not things that we're doing over here. We just look at this and go, oh, look what they did. Oh, I think I'll take that money back because it's dead money now anyway. And I think that I'll go ahead and I'll put a fund in the global repository for people that might have lost pension funds or something like that due to their misdeeds. See, is that creating balance in the world? No, because they're going to still keep doing things. They just don't understand how the magic behind the system works. It's not a computer. It's not like you can go on your laptop and look up whatever you want and play a video game and win the game. It's not like that. It has a consciousness of its own. Even their dark text did. So, I don't know. I wish them good luck in what they're doing. I hope that one day they'll figure out what I mean by the system. But irregardless, it is up to us to build a new system to take its place, to create that new system, to get the wisdom from Source. Ask how you can help. Don't ask me, ask Source, because he will tell you and he'll give you that great idea. And then maybe you kind of get stuck in a dead end, and maybe you need to find a way to create 10,000 tomatoes to make pasta for hundreds of people or thousands of people that can't eat today. But maybe there's a way that you'll figure that out. There's a lot of ways to do things in this world. And if you're given the idea, then it's yours and yours alone. Not to say that you can't recruit other people to help you. Feeding thousands of people is going to take a lot of manpower. But sure, but the first step has to begin with you, as it relates to those great ideas that we're all having here. Hopefully more and more lately. Overall, energetically speaking, it wasn't a bad weekend. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. There was a little bit of turmoil here and there, mainly not caused by them. For me, it was more backlash from AI systems and sophons that we're taking out that get angry. And they do have the ability to hit you back. energy-wise. So, yeah, I mean, a little bit of that here and there, but definitely not terrible. Overall, it was just mainly creating on our end of it and watching their destruction on the other end, just making sure that they don't hurt too many people along the way. One more quick thing I wanted to go over is these tariff wars. They're getting absolutely ridiculous. And the information that they're putting out in the mainstream media, and I know this is a total shock to you, is not correct. You know, they're talking about China now. China hit back, apparently, with 34% tariff against U.S. goods. And the Trump administration is saying China has been so abusive and the tariffs that have abused Americans for all this time. And we're finally hitting back. And now we're going to increase their 67% tariff by 50%. Oh, Lord. You know, these people don't even know how to. I mean, they, at least with Biden, it was like, you know, he kind of had a little bit of dementia going on or whatever the show movie was portraying to us. And, you know, and the bad math was understandable. But these people just decide to bully their way through math. It's like obnoxious. So for those of you that are curious, it's probably buried very deep on your internet. But tariffs for China were around 14% on agricultural products, which that was in 2023, so it was probably even less before that, and 6.4% on non-agricultural products. There was really no abuse there. For those of you that are aware or unaware, the deep states corporations do not pay any tariffs. That is not anywhere in the world. I'm sure that the Trump administration also made sure that that continues for at least their favorite, or Elon Musk's favorite, or somebody's favorite corporations, you know, your Johnson & Johnson's, your Pfizer's, Moderna's. None of those people pay any kind of tariffs or customs fees ever. It gives them a substantial advantage over the rest of us that have small businesses that import and export things. In case you weren't aware, that never came into play. Now, I'm going to tell you how that even worked, just briefly, and so you understand it. You see, they allegedly put their companies into a position where they were built many decades ago when they were rebuilding after World War II in what they called underdeveloped or areas that needed reconstruction after the war. The plan was actually something called the Plan of Experts, and it was developed in the late 1940s to early 1960s, and this is what allowed the GATT, who then became the World Trade Organization, to develop different programs along the way that would allow for larger corporations that were also at the same time participating in alleged reconstruction of the areas where they built their companies or built second factories or offices, or they were supposed to actually make sure that there was enough charitable contribution or a foundation, on the other hand, that supported their free money and free tariffs worldwide. Sorry to say, but that's actually how it worked. Now, apparently, this version, or many generations later, of the deep state, they have no idea what I'm saying to you right now. Now, this is a you problem, not a me problem. It's also how the United Nations eventually went from the GATT to the World Trade Organization, but also at the same time, there's hundreds of foundations underneath the United Nations for the same reason, because they were required to give certain amounts of money to things like, not saying that this was a good or a bad idea, don't get me wrong, but like USAID or Doctors Across Borders or UNICEF or donations to fund health care for children that can't afford it or cures for cancer. Not to say they're actually doing these things, but The idea behind it was to balance out the system so that they could then enjoy all of the free money that they would get from everywhere else, as long as they did a certain amount of alleged humanitarian projects on the other side. And for the most part, it was a 60-40 split. It went to an 80-20 split, and they should have taken a look at this before Duck Dynasty tried to run a presidential government or campaign, so to speak. Now, as far as the countries and the tariffs are concerned, another thing is happening as well out there, is that the countries have realized that they are being blackmailed by the new global mafia, which is essentially, we are calling the Duck Dynasty. Duck Dynasty would like to be the global mafia, and they realize they're being blackmailed. And so as they're calling these countries, trying to negotiate and whatnot worldwide, they're all basically telling them, nah, thanks, we'll just keep our tariffs. You know? And there's not a whole lot of allies left of the United States, I can tell you that, thanks to Duck Dynasty. If that's what they were going for, they are winning the game. Not to say that the Rothschilds and the Order of the Dragon are not there, or the other players or people that think they're players in the game aren't trying to pick up the pieces and make allies on the other side. Of course they are. China's going around everywhere backdooring the Trump administration, because remember, under the Rothschild rule, China wins. Or under the Order of the Dragon rule, China is supposed to be the next world power. So everything pretty much that the Trump organization or Duck Dynasty is creating, they're being counteracted by the other side. So all they're doing is mirroring, because no one actually is creating anything. The operatives on the Duck Dynasty side are repeating operations that they did for eons, over and over and over again. And on the other side, they are just mimicking everything the other people are doing. So, you know, they're watching your enemy and doing exactly what they're doing. So it's kind of a fight that's beyond us is the wrong word, but irrelevant, or not relevant, I should say, to use proper English, that is not relevant to the rest of us, because realistically, this just keeps them busy going around in a circle, which is just like Source to do. Well, we have time to create something as they're destroying everything, because we will be there. We, the people, will be there for one another. We will always be there for one another. We may not understand, all of us, you know, those in your friends and family network and outside that, they might not understand exactly what's happening or why it happened. But I can tell you, people will gravitate towards something positive if it's there. So if we build it, you know, as in the field of dreams, if we build it, they will come. And we're not worried about that in any way on our end of it. It's going to be okay. And for those of you that are struggling right now, try to spend, and I know you're going to say I'm crazy, but try to spend a little bit of time, even 20, 30 minutes a day, creating. You can even create a dream life for yourself. You can create positive health for yourself. You can create a lot of good things for yourself. Let go of past traumas. Let go of current traumas. Get out of victim mode. Get out of dependent nanny state mode, and get busy doing what I know you can do. You know, we bet the entire world on you. Source obviously has a good reason. He believes in you too. So on that note, that has been the 7th of April GIA report, or Global Intelligence Agency Operations report. And we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. It's interesting out there right now. But create. Solving problems is creation. Asking for help, asking for wisdom, and listen when you get it. So on that note, get busy creating, and I'll see you on Wednesday.